Hey everyone, this is Abiding Acres Homestead. I just wanted to show you my first harvest of my herbs. I have basil, I have green and purple basil, and some marigolds, and on the very bottom is something I've never tried before, and they turned out beautiful. It looks like cilantro, but it's celery leaf. So instead of using celery, which is actually really hard to grow here, I'm growing celery leaf, and so I'm going to dry it, and I'll use it in things like dressings and stuffings and soups and stews, and it really smells like celery, so I'm really excited, and it's growing really well. And my very first ground cherry, so I'm really excited. I'm gonna open it and give it a try. I'll let you know how it goes. I also had to shut this off while I was filming, otherwise you wouldn't have been able to hear me. But in my dehydrator today, I have the celery leaf drying. I'll show you what it looks like. There. So nice leaves that come off. This is the top rack, so they're all the little ones on the top, but they're starting to really start to dry out now. So I just filled up, I think I have 5 trays on this, and this one goes for 6 hours on 100 degrees. And yeah, so this is the celery leaf, and it dries out really nice, and then I can use it, like I said, in soups and stews and my stuffings or dressing, whatever you call it. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to having a couple jars. I think I should be able to get 2 500 milliliter jars, I think, by the end of the season. Hi everyone, this is Kimberly from Abiding Acres Homestead. I just wanted to show you a quick video on how to do zucchini pickles. This is one of my family's favorite pickles. It's a super easy recipe, and I use the one from Jean Perret's company's Coming Preserving cookbook. Most of my pickles and preserves are from this cookbook, so if you're interested, I think you can get it on Amazon. But this is the recipe I'm using today, and I'll show you the first step, which is just to slice 6 cups of zucchini and 2 medium onion. I always try to pick zucchini that are pretty small, pretty new zucchini. Don't let them get too large for this recipe, because you want to cut them on a mandolin, which is something like this, or like if you have a food processor, that'll do it thin enough. But this is how thin I slice the zucchini. So if you have a food processor that'll slice it that thin, then you can use that as well. So you're going to cut up 6 cups of zucchini this way, and you're going to use the same thing, your mandolin or your processor, to do the 2 medium onions. You're going to drop in 3 tablespoons of sea salt. It says pickling salt in there, but I like to use sea salt, so just not iodized salt. So I'll put that in, and then you'll let it sit for 4 hours. No more than 4 hours, otherwise your pickles will be too soggy, but you need to let it sit on the counter. I just throw a towel over it so the little fruit flies don't get in, and we're just going to let it sit for a bit, and I'll come back. So this is what it looks like all sliced up. So there's 6 cups. It ended up being 3 zucchinis about this size. And I had the 2 medium onions, and they were probably a little on the small side, so I could have used a little bit bigger, but it'll be fine. And just a tip, anytime you have extra like pieces like this that didn't go through your mandolin, or when you're cutting up your onions and you have the end pieces in the skin, put them in a bag in the freezer, and then you can use that for your bone broth and your soup stocks that you make. So this will sit now for, it says cover and let stand on counter for 3 hours. Do not let sit longer. So I'm just going to cover it with a tea towel, and I'll let it sit for a few hours. Now, while we're in the kitchen, can I just show you, look at that beautiful view. That's my gardens. I get to look out my kitchen window. I just think it's so pretty. Okay, the next step is to rinse the zucchini and onion in the colander to get all the salt off. And I just kind of separate them a bit with my fingers. And then you mix up the brine into a pot on the stove and bring it to a boil. And then you add your zucchini and onions to the brine, and you're going to boil it on the stove for 5 minutes. At the same time, I have my jars boiling, preparing them for canning in my water bath canner on the stove at the same time. So I have all my jars ready here. I have hard water where I live, and it doesn't bother me that my jars look a little cloudy. I kind of just wash them off at the end, and it looks fine, and it doesn't bother me, and it doesn't bother my family. But some people say if you put a little splash of vinegar in the water when you're boiling it, then your jars won't come out as cloudy. You can kind of see how the hard water does that. And just make sure that you're sterilizing your lids, even your canning equipment that you're going to use when you're doing your canning. Okay, so I've got everything mixed together in my pot, and I'm going to bring it up to a boil and let it boil for 5 minutes, and then we'll put it into the jars and get them in the canner. At the same time that I'm letting the zucchini and brine get up to a boil, I'm leaving my pot on so that I don't lose the boil on the pot of water either for canning, because it does take so long. And this is such a great recipe. Everybody loves this one. It tastes a lot like the bread and butter pickles you would buy in a store, and everybody loves it so much that my sister started making it, and now my dad made it this year too. So all that means is that I don't have to give away jars anymore because they've made their own. It's more for me. Another reminder is to make sure that you're following the latest standards for canning, especially for water bath canning. So what I do in these videos is just what I feel comfortable in doing in my home, but you should check some websites, or so a lot of the American channels will use the Ball canning book and Ball website to make sure that they're doing everything correct. Here in Canada, I don't know how you pronounce it. I could pronounce it Bernardine, but it's Burning, I don't know. But the canning companies that put out the jars, you should really go to their website, see what the recommended process is for water bath canning in your area, and follow those directions. Okay, so I'm going to try and do a little bit of this with one hand, but you're just going to fill up your jars with your zucchini mixture, and the recipe says to fill it within a ½ inch from the top. So we're just going to very carefully. Now this stuff, this particular recipe, it's very sticky. It's because of the sugar in it. So you're going to make a bit of a mess. I would suggest putting down some towels, tea towels on your table, and make sure that you have everything you need right here beside you so that it goes quicker, smoother, less mess. So I'm just going to keep adding. Now this recipe says it makes 2 pints. I doubled it, so we're going to have a little bit more than that. Oops. I did say ½ inch, right? So just keep going until you think you're getting close. Make sure you've got a good mixture of brine and zucchini in there. And this little tool, where did it go? I've lost my little tool. There it is. This little tool that you get in your canning kits, it does 2 things. One, if you put it down on the sides of the jars, it's going to get all the air bubbles out for you and make sure that there's no air in the jar. The other thing is, these onions get sloppy. It's got a measuring edge on it. So it's going to tell you if we're looking for a ½ inch from the top. And it looks like I could put a little bit more in. These onions make it a little tricky because they're so long. Put more pickle in. Again, I'm gonna pack it in there. Make sure there's no bubbles. It should be close. And I'm just a little too full, so in that case, you can just take your spoon and pull a little bit of the liquid back out. I'm doing this with one hand, otherwise it would probably go a little bit smoother. But this is just showing you all the things that you should and shouldn't do. Okay, so that looks like we're good. I'm gonna get a lid out of my hot water here. So the latest rules now say that you don't have to boil your lids. I don't boil them. I just like to put them in some hot water just to make sure that they're clean. And then oops, you know what I forgot to do? Again, one hand. So you're gonna take a cloth, a clean cloth. I dip it in the boiling water, and especially these pickles, because they're going to be very sticky, you're going to make sure that your rims are nice and clean and free of any particles from the pickles or juice, so that you get a good seal. And you're just going to put the lids on, finger tight, and put it in the water bath.